Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Let's Dev. Today we are taking a break from our Minecraft 2D project to work on another Minecraft-based project. What? Now, in a recent Minecraft gameplay, which, might I add, was absolutely insane, I spent some time avoiding the darkness of death by pondering how to approach crafting in our 2D project. Foregoing the traditional crafting methods for the recipe book seemed most interesting, but I hypothesized on how I'd recreate the traditional system in GameMaker. Well, it got me to thinking if I could actually in fact pull it off. So today we'll be attempting to recreate Minecraft's traditional crafting in GameMaker. It won't be a one-to-one recreation in terms of features, but I'm eager to put what I proposed in the gameplay video to the test and see if I can in fact back up my words. That's right, it's time for a Let's Player to see if he can make what he plays. So let's get to it. Now off video, I've already prepared our menu with basic graphics and mouse hotspots so we can get right into the action. So first we need two DS lists, one to hold all of our crafting recipes and the other to keep track of our crafting grid, which I populated with default blank spots. Then using the same loop to draw our crafting grid cells, I drew the crafting grid DS list to our menu. This is so, we can see what we're placing in the grid. And as you can see from the 3x3 grid of logs, our code is working properly. While we're here, let's take a look at the menu. The hotspots are broken into three parts. The crafting grid, where we will place things to craft, our quote-unquote inventory bar, which I set up specifically to generate data for the grid, but you can imagine it as like the in-game tool belt, I guess. And the third space is anything outside the hotspots. The code used here is basically just a refined version of what we've used in previous projects to do similar things. If you're interested to see more, I'd highly recommend my data structure / inventory related episodes. I've provided links in the description below. Moving on, we needed to populate our recipe list with, well, recipes. Each recipe consists of a 9-digit code with each number representing an ingredient, and of course 0 representing a blank cell in the crafting grid. For demo purposes, we're only covering a handful of the wood-based craftables, and I even set up a list of enums to make things easier. But when constructing our list, thanks in part to the Minecraft wiki, using numbers was actually easier to visualize each recipe in full. And real quickly, here's how it's going to work. We'll be generating a sequence of numbers from our crafting grid based on whatever is placed in the 9 cells provided. We'll then compare that sequence to our list of recipes, all of which have their own unique sequences. If we find a match, we output the ID of the created item. Again, this is very reminiscent of previous projects, like when we created our own level editor. Anyway, now that our list is finally populated, we needed to generate our grid sequence. I set up a loop that would check through the crafting grid cells, copy the data stored in them, and then add them to the output sequence. I thought copying the existing sequence string and adding to it would work, but that only spit out 8 numbers. Tweaking the code a bit, including adding a conditional, seemed to fix this, so I added the ability to change cell data based on whatever the mouse currently had selected. Testing showed that my sequence code worked, but it was off by 1. Turns out I forgot that string sequences start at 1 and not 0, so adding a +1 offset fixed the issue. This also meant I could clean up some unnecessary code, and finally we now had a working sequence generator. All that was left was to tie it all together. First, I had the right-click reset a cell to 0 so we could easily remove ingredients from our crafting grid. Then I added a new variable for crafting results and a sprite for said results in the menu. I then checked if our crafting grid was blank, and if not, we'd execute our comparison script. I passed our crafting grid's generated sequence over to the script and compared it to the entire list of recipes. Originally, I thought a loop was necessary. It was not. Also, returning the results wouldn't work using the system I originally had planned, so I tried something else. Using the same check for comparisons, I turned that check into a boolean. If it came back true, I simply set the result variable to the crafted item's ID. If not, the result remained a 0, which thankfully worked exactly as I had hoped. So, by placing ingredients into the grid, that alters our output sequence. This means our crafting grid is no longer empty, and thus the code begins comparing our output sequence to the recipe list. If there's a match, the results are shown in the box to the right, and if not, it remains blank, just like in Minecraft. Yay! Now, there are obvious flaws to this system. For one, this method is extremely strict in regards to ingredient placement, but maybe with some finesse, or maybe a shift to a DS grid may make this system more flexible, but that's just a guess. What's important here is I set out to put my money where my mouth was, so to speak, and I think I accomplished that goal here today. But aside from bragging rights, if you've been wondering how to create a similar system and were stuck, hopefully this inspires you. And with that, we've come to the end of today's episode of Let's Dev. So remember that if you like this video or enjoy Let's Dev in general, be sure to hit that like button. If you aren't already subscribed, be sure to hit that subscribe button, and be sure to turn on notifications so you never miss a new episode. And as always, be sure to leave your thoughts on my approach to the Minecraft traditional crafting style in the comment section below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.